Hi, welcome back to the quick dot programming course. In this class, we are going to discuss about function definition and different types of parameters that are available in functions in dot programming. See, the definition of function is very much similar to C and Java programming, but the parameters, different types of parameters that are available are very different when compared to other programming languages. We have to focus here. Now, coming to the functions in dot programming, the definition of function, we will write the name of the function followed by open brackets and closed brackets. Inside that, we will mention the parameters that we need to pass during the function call. You can mention the parameters like this. If you want to return something in this function, the type of that return value should be mentioned here. And there are open brackets and closed brackets. In between that, you have to write the body of the function. And finally, return statement, this is what you are going to return. The same similar function definition which we already discussed in our C and Java programming, very much similar. There is nothing new here. Suppose if you don't want to return anything, you just write void. If you don't want to pass any values, you just leave it as empty. Yes, you can leave it as empty. There is nothing mandatory to pass values to the function. So this function is simply it is displaying hello. That's it. It is not returning anything, and it is not so during the function call we are not passing any values to the function. This is what about simple definition of the function. It's very much similar. But coming to the next one, parameters, the parameters to the function is very much different when compared to other programming languages. Let's try to understand one by one. First one is positional parameters. When you define a function f, int a, int b, these are positional parameters. Means first position, second position. The positional parameters are required parameters. What's the meaning of that required parameters means? During the calling a function, when you are calling the function f of 2, 5, 2 is assigned to the first one, 5 is assigned to the second one. Required parameters means definitely you have to pass the value. You should not avoid that. You should pass the value. That is what required parameters means. So positional parameters are default required parameters. You have to pass the value during the function call. Optional parameters means, see, if you want to make any positional parameters optional parameters, you have to use square brackets in order to make them as optional parameters. Means, with example you will get clarity. F of int a, int b, comma, int c. You mentioned that in brackets, means this is optional. During the function call, you may call or you may not call. According to your requirement, you may call or you may not call. F of 10, 20, 10 is assigned to A, 20 is assigned to B. You did not mention any value. C is taken as null value. That is what optional means. Next one is coming to named parameters. So what's this named parameters means? During the function call, you can assign value based on the name. That is what named parameters means. If you want to define named parameters, f of flower brackets, closed flower brackets, you have to use this in order to mention the named parameters. Int a, int b. You can pass the values during the function call f of b colon 20, comma a colon 20, a colon 10. So there is no need to mention because these are named parameters, we are calling them using name. There is no need to follow the order of definition. First one is a, second one is b, but during the function call we mentioned b first and a second. It's not a problem because you mentioned the name. A is assigned to a, b is assigned to b. And these are by default, these named parameters are optional parameters. What's that optional parameters means? During the function call, you may pass the value or you may not pass the value. By default, they are going to take the null value. f of b 10, you passed only 10 b value. A is not passed. By default, it is going to take null value. That is what optional means. So combination of positional and named parameters. So you can write both combination in the function f of int a, int b, these are positional parameters. Int c, this is a named parameter. First you have to mention the positional parameters followed by list of named parameters. That is how you have to mention. That is the syntax for combination of both the positional and named parameters. So f of 10 comma 20, 10 is assigned to A, 20 is assigned to B. You did not mention any named parameter. By default, it is going to take a null value. Coming to the next one, required in positional parameters. Suppose by default the it's not positional, it's named parameters. Mistake. So required in named parameters. By default, named parameters are optional. When you are calling a function, you may not pass or you may not pass. But if you mention it as f of required int a, if you mention it as required, then it is a required parameter. You have to pass it. F of a 10, you have to pass it, otherwise it will show it as a mistake. You did not mention b, it's okay, no problem, because it is optional. Default, it is going to take it as a null value. So this is what you have to understand about functions in Dart programming. We will continue the next class. If you have any questions regarding the concepts, please post your questions in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel and press bell icon for the latest updates. Thank you.